Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. I met Terrence in my early 20s back when I was still taking classes at Atlanta Technical College and working at a diner downtown. He was charming, ambitious, and made me laugh until I forgot how tired I was. He said he wanted to build something big, that he was tired of watching other people eat while we stayed hungry. We dated for 3 years before getting married in a little church off Cascade Road. We did not have much, but we had dreams and we had each other. When we had our first child, a baby girl with his eyes and my stubborn chin, I thought we had finally made it. Not because we had money, but because our little apartment was filled with laughter, music, and love. A few years later, our son arrived and our family felt complete. Terrence promised me things would only get better. He kept talking about his business ideas, his hustle, the things he would do for us. I worked as a nurse. Even when I was exhausted from double shifts, I always came home, checked homework, braided my daughter's hair, and read bedtime stories. Terrence said he was out networking, making moves. That is what he called it. I wanted to believe him, so I did. After a while, I started to notice small things that did not sit right. Late-night text messages. A second phone he kept hidden. Whispers on calls in the other room. When I asked about it, he would get defensive, then apologetic, then show up with flowers or take the children out for ice cream. I told myself I was overly tired and reading into things. I decided to let it go. It was not until the money trouble started that everything truly shifted. The bills piled up faster than I could open the envelopes. Terrence said his new business would pay off any week now. I took extra shifts, stopped buying anything new for myself, and clipped coupons until my fingers hurt. Yet he somehow found money for new sneakers, new cologne, and once he came home with a gold chain I had never seen before. I told myself it was a phase and that we would push through. Love is patience, I whispered to myself when the house was quiet. Terrence began staying out later. First, he came home by midnight, then it became 2 in the morning, then 3. Sometimes he did not come home at all. When he was there, he was glued to his phone or too tired to talk. The warmth between us thinned until it felt like a draft under a door you cannot seem to close. I missed him even when he sat across the room. The children asked where their father was. I told them he was working hard for our future. It felt like I was lying to them and to myself. The night before my world fell apart, I remember a heaviness that clung to me like damp air. The children were asleep. I sat at the kitchen table staring at a final notice from the electric company. My paycheck was already spent on rent and groceries. I texted Terrence to ask when he would be home. No response. At 3 in the morning, I gave up and went to bed. That was the last night I felt safe in my own home. The next day was a Saturday. I was about to make breakfast when the front door opened. Terrence walked in with a woman behind him. She was younger, all lashes, nails, and posture sharp enough to cut. Her name was Brianna. I had never seen her before, but the way she looked around told me everything. She did not scan the space like a visitor. She surveyed it like she was taking inventory. Terrence did not introduce her. He just said, "This is how it is now, Keisha." His voice was flat. "You and the children need to pack up." At first, I thought it was a cruel joke. The words floated in the air without shape. Brianna stood there with her arms crossed, a small smirk pulling on the corner of her mouth. I asked what he was talking about. He barely looked at me. Brianna reached into her bag and pulled out papers. "You have to go," she said, waving them in my face. "This house is in his name now. It is ours." My knees went loose. I felt like I was standing inside a nightmare. I begged. I forgot pride and anger and every disappointment. I begged. "Terrence, please think about the children," I said. "They have school. They need their home. Please give us some time." He looked away. Brianna laughed, stepped closer, and said, "You heard him. Start packing." I told her, "You do not have to do this. This was my home, too." She closed the distance between us, and when I pleaded once more, she slapped me so hard my ears rang. Terrence just smiled, arms folded, like he had paid for a show to watch. I wish I could say I fought back, but I did not. Something in me cracked open and went quiet. I stood there with tears running down my face. My daughter peeked around the corner, eyes wide and frightened. My son started to cry. I gathered what I could: clothes, documents, school supplies, a box of old family photos. Brianna hovered and made small comments about how I should have left sooner. Terrence never said another word, not even goodbye. We left that day. Even the air outside felt colder. I called my sister, but she said her household was full and she had too much going on. I called my mother, but she was out of town. Friends expressed sympathy, but nobody could take us in. That first night, the children and I slept in my car in a Walmart parking lot, seats pushed back, blankets over the windows. My daughter asked when we could go home. I held her and said, "Soon, baby. Soon," and tasted the lie as I spoke it. We bounced from parking lots to a rundown motel whenever I could scrape together enough money. I washed up in gas station bathrooms, tried to keep the children's clothes clean, made sure they got to school on time, and held the truth in my mouth until it burned. At night, I cried so quietly my chest hurt. I was afraid to sleep. I was afraid of what tomorrow would look like, afraid of how much farther we could fall. People began to disappear. No one from Terrence's family called, not even his mother, who used to beg for holiday leftovers. Some co-workers whispered when I was late or when I came in looking like I had been wrung dry. I crafted stories about why we moved, said Terrence had gotten a job in another state. I was trying to protect the children from the truth and to hang on to a small piece of dignity when everything else had been taken. Every morning I woke before dawn, brushed my teeth in the motel bathroom, put on my scrubs, and left the children with a neighbor I paid a few dollars to watch them before school. I was running on coffee, faith, and survival. Some days I wanted to vanish, but I did not let the children see me break. I held myself together with stubbornness and love. It took almost 3 months to save enough for a small 2-bedroom apartment in Decatur. It was not fancy, just 4 walls and a roof, but to us it felt like air after being underwater. I made the best of it. I hung up old photos, bought inexpensive curtains from the dollar store, and turned a milk crate into a nightstand. The children started to smile again. For the first time since we left, I slept through the night. Even after we settled, the pain did not vanish. Terrence did not call, did not send money, did not check on the children. My daughter asked about him for a while, then stopped. My son used to draw pictures of all 4 of us. Then his drawings changed. Now it was just him and me beneath a bright sun over a small apartment. The simplicity made me cry in the shower where no one could. Hear me. I enrolled in online classes at night, working toward my registered nurse credential, so I could earn more and give my children a sturdier life. The nights were the hardest. When the children were asleep, I sat on the edge of my bed and let the tears come. I replayed everything Terrence had ever said, every promise and every lie. Sometimes I hated him. Sometimes I missed him. Most days I felt numb, as if feeling too much had worn my nerves smooth. Years passed in this steady, demanding rhythm. I earned my registered nurse credential and landed a better job at a health clinic. I saved every dollar I could. When our lease was up, I took a chance and moved us to North Carolina, where the cost of living was lower and nobody knew our story. It felt like breathing freely for the first time in years. I bought a used car, found a small house to rent, and watched the children finally exhale. We planted a modest garden. We painted the rooms bright colors. We filled the place with laughter again. It was not simple. There were still bills, still worries, still nights when exhaustion made me cry. But we had a life that felt ours. The children made friends and joined after-school activities. I began to find joy in small things. Walking in the park, eating dinner together at our wobbly kitchen table, watching the children's faces light up when I made their favorite food. I did not tell anyone what we had been through. I held on to the quiet and was grateful for the peace. After 2 years, an old friend from Atlanta called me out of the blue. "Keisha, you will not believe who I just saw," she said. "Terrence." Then she told me what people were saying. All the business ventures he had boasted about had collapsed. He tried too many things at once, borrowed from the wrong people, and ran out of luck. One bad investment bled into another. He went bankrupt and lost everything. Brianna cleaned out his accounts, took what remained, and left with another man. The house was repossessed. His car got towed. Last anyone saw, he was living out of his car and looking for somewhere to sleep that would not put him on the sidewalk. I held the phone to my ear and let the words pass through me like a wind that could not move me. The woman who had thrown my children and me out on the street was gone, and Terrence was alone, with nothing left in his hands. My friend kept talking, naming details. People who used to nod at him turned their faces away. The women he had chased stopped answering. She said he looked tired and worn, like life had finally caught up with him. "I almost felt bad for him," she whispered, but we both knew he had built his own fall. I thanked her for calling and hung up. I sat at my kitchen table, and stared at the clean top of the wood. That night, after the children were asleep, I let my mind return to the old house. To Brianna's hand as it cut across my face. To the tremble in my daughter's small mouth. To the hollow space where Terrence's love was supposed to be. I let myself remember just long enough to mark how far we had come. Then I set it down. I realized I did not hate Terrence. I did not wish him harm. What I felt was a deep, settled quiet. I had paid for my freedom in pain, and now I had it. Weeks went by. Now and then, I heard more through the grapevine. Someone saw Terrence at a temp agency wearing the same clothes for days. Someone else said he tried to stay with a cousin, but no one wanted his drama. Brianna, who had once seemed unstoppable, disappeared into her own silence. I did not care about the details anymore. That life was gone. I was too busy tending to the life I had. I never blocked Terrence's number. Some part of me wondered whether he would call to ask about the children or to ask for help. The call never came. The children stopped asking about him. My daughter sometimes paused if she saw a man who resembled him at the grocery store, then let it go. My son simply held my hand a little tighter. We were our own family now, scarred but stronger. Slowly, I began to see how quiet joys take root when you water them. Saturday mornings cooking pancakes with the children. Evenings tending our garden. Laughter around the dinner table, bouncing off the walls of our small house. I realized I could lose every material thing and still be richer than I had ever been in that old house back in Atlanta. The children were healing, too. My daughter began to trust the world again. My son stopped waking up crying in the night. We all had scars, but we also had hope. Sometimes, when I sat on the porch with coffee warming my hands and the sky turning a soft pink at sunset, I thought about karma. People expect it to be loud and merciless. For me, it arrived like a hush. There was no revenge in it, only the chance to live without fear. If I ever cross paths with Terrence again, I imagine I would wish him well and keep walking. Forgiveness, I learned, is not an invitation to let someone back in. It is the decision to stop dragging the hurt behind you. I built a life for myself and my children out of the ruins he left. Every morning, I wake up and hug them and know that we survived. There are people who look at us now and see a family, not a tragedy. They do not know what we walked through. That is fine. I do not need to present the pain to prove I overcame it. The world holds many people like Terrence and Brianna. It also holds many women like me, women who bend but do not break, who pick up the pieces and build something better. This is what peace looks like for me. A home filled with music and laughter, dinners eaten together, a quiet sense of safety that no one can steal. I do not wait for the other shoe to drop. I do not wonder what Terrence is doing. I live. I let the past remain where it belongs. When the light comes through our kitchen window in the afternoon, it lands on the jars of dry beans lined up on the shelf and on the drawings my son tapes to the refrigerator. I stand there sometimes and think of the woman I used to be, the one who believed that love meant bearing any weight and waiting out any storm. I am kinder to her now. She survived what she had to survive so I could stand here today. I remember the motel's thin towels and the way my daughter curled up beside me in the back seat of the car, how my son pressed his cheek to my arm until he fell asleep. I remember rolling quarters for laundry and counting every dollar. I remember drinking water when my stomach growled so the children could eat the last of the cereal. I remember, and then I turn back to the stove to stir what is simmering, because the present is here and it needs me. People sometimes say I am strong. Maybe so. But strength, the real kind, is not flashy. It is finishing a shift, getting the children to bed, and waking up to do it again while your heart thuds with worry. It is opening the door to a new town where nobody knows you and saying, "We are home," and meaning it. It is building a routine out of fragments. On Sundays, I drive the children to a small church where the choir's voices rise and fill the room with something that feels like sunlight. After service, we linger on the steps and talk to neighbors. No one asks prying questions. They just smile the easy smiles of people who know what it is to start over and choose kindness anyway. We walk back to the car together, our steps in rhythm. At work, I move through the clinic with steady hands and a steady voice. I think about how my life here rests on a foundation I built one small decision at a time. To study after the children fell asleep, to say yes to overtime, to save a little every paycheck, to keep my spirit from hardening into bitterness. I do not pretend any of it was elegant. It was effort and will. It was a mother choosing the next right thing. My daughter has a journal she keeps under her pillow. Sometimes she reads me a line or two about what she wants for her future. She talks about science class and the book she wants to write and how she plans to decorate her own place one day. My son collects smooth stones from the park and keeps them on the windowsill. He names them after stars. I see their lives widening, and I feel something like relief and pride braided together. Once, a mutual acquaintance offered to pass along a message to Terence if I ever wanted to talk to him. I did not. There is nothing left to salvage in words between us. The children will decide for themselves, when they are older, what they need to know and whether they want to reach out. For now, our house is a sanctuary. It is quiet of the right kind. I still keep the box of old photos. Sometimes the children and I pull it out and spread the pictures across the table. We talk about grandparents and cousins, about family recipes and holidays. When a photo of Terence appears, I do not hide it. I tell the truth in a way the children can hold. Then we slide the photo back into the box and move to the next one. At night, when the house settles and the refrigerator hums, I can hear the soft rhythm of my children breathing in their rooms. I think about the long road that brought us here and the way quiet can be a blessing when you have known the roar of chaos. I turn off the lamp and let the dark hold me, not as a threat but as rest. The first morning we woke up in our North Carolina rental. The floorboards were cold and we had no curtains yet. We ate breakfast on the floor and laughed when the syrup dripped because we did not have a proper table. That day is a bright coin in my mind. It reminds me that the beginning of a better life does not always look like abundance. Sometimes it looks like a bare room and the sound of your children laughing anyway. I used to imagine karma arriving with a hammer. Now I think it is closer to a door quietly closing behind you while another one opens. I did not have to watch Terence fall to feel whole. My healing did not require his suffering. The peace I have is made of days that were ordinary and good in ours. If you ask me what victory looks like, I would point to our kitchen on a Wednesday night. Homework spread out, a pot bubbling on the stove, my daughter talking about a club meeting, my son explaining the name of a constellation. Victory looks like a bill paid on time, like car keys on the hook by the door, like shoes lined up on a mat, because we have somewhere to return to that is safe. There is a photograph of me at the clinic after my first year as a registered nurse. I am standing by the supply cabinet with tired eyes and a smile I did not have to force. When I look at it, I think of all the versions of me that carried one another forward. The woman at the kitchen table with the shut-off notice, the mother in the Walmart parking lot, the student typing through tears, the tenant indicator unpacking hope into a small room, the new neighbor in North Carolina planting basil in a garden bed. They are all here with me still. I do not look back to measure whether Terence learned anything. That is not my business. My business is this life I built from the ground up. The front door that sticks a little when it rains. The porch where the light fades violet. The laughter that rises up from the hallway. The peace that holds steady, not loud, not showy, just sure. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.